The Servant Warrior Podcast is a Servant Warrior media production. You are entering the razor-sharp collision of common sense, critical thought, truth, and the blade side of Christian talk and music. This is Unabashed Radio and the Servant Warrior Podcast.
Oh yeah, hello and welcome to the Servant Warrior Podcast. You are on with me, Cersei, and yep, it's been a minute. I think the last time we jumped on, I was on with Shane Valinsky, the CEO, founder of Brain AI. And if you did not check out that podcast, you got to go check it out. You're right there where you found this one. You will find that one. And also, go find me on social media, Mr. Jeff Cersei on Instagram and Facebook, and then on Twitter. X, Jeff Cersei. And you want to go on LinkedIn. That's also at Jeff Cersei, because I was on the Braincast podcast a few weeks back, and it was a great time. If you've looked at any of the of my social media or followed Shane Valinsky, you gotta check him out, man. He's fired up about all kind of stuff going on. But I had a great time on there with him, and it was a blast to hang out with him, and then a blast to hang out with Shane. We kind of come from the same cloth. We grew up in the same time frame. We got some different views on things, but I'll tell you what, man, he is awesome. You got to check it out. Go to Braincast, go to their podcast. You can go to Brain AI. Matter of fact, doing some things with those guys. Some pretty awesome tools, some pretty awesome AI tools for your business. We'll get into that on another day. But today I'm giving it like a double dip of info today, and it's. We're going to, okay, let me go ahead and preempt this thing real quick. I'm going to talk a little AARP. Yeah, but not the way that you think. And we're also going to talk Social Security benefits. I'm sorry. I'm laughing just because the way it sounded a whole lot better as I'm looking at this. But it's almost like, okay, listen, if AARP, I'm getting that stuff in the mail, man. There ain't no way. It doesn't matter how old I am. I'm not going to join up with AARP. And I'm not quite to Social Security benefits, but listen, there's method to the madness. I promise you, I'm not gonna do an advertisement or anything for AARP. I'm not gonna bust on them either. You got to trust me on this, okay? Trust me. Hang in. I'm also, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's this little thing. You go find it, iCitizen. And if you go to iCitizen, you can probably look them up on social media and everything else. And every once in a while, they'll put polls out. And I just happened to look at one of their polls over the last couple of days. We got a lot of stuff going on. Got a midterm election coming up in a few months. We're starting to see ads. I am here in Georgia, in Marietta, Georgia, matter of fact, just a little bit north of Atlanta. And all of a sudden we're seeing, I'm seeing Senate race advertisements. And I will tell you, so Raphael Warnock, I don't want to get this political, but I just think it's really funny. And matter of fact, all of this ties into what we're going to talk about today, and actually what I'm going to do over the next couple of episodes of the podcast, because I'm going to do some shortened versions of some of the things that I do when I do corporate training, when I do any kind of professional development, especially for educators. As we talk about this, matter of fact, I even talked about it on the podcast with the guys from Brain AI. And just, we are just inundated with information. I mean, it just never stops. Our phones, we're constantly in them. As a matter of fact, if you're walking around any hallway or walking around anywhere, and all of a sudden you feel like you got to go head up, because, man, there's got the heads buried down in the phone and they can't even see where they're going. I hope that I'm not that. So if you ever see me walking around and I got my head on my phone, please tell me, put my head up. But anyway, I was talking about political campaigns and senatorial race. So Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff are the senators from the state of Georgia, both Democrats. And I got to tell you, like I said, I'm not going to jump into politics or anything else. But I hadn't seen Jon Ossoff. I don't even know when the last time I saw him do anything. And all of a sudden now I'm seeing him. He's done all of this amazing stuff as a senator. I guess I need to go check the voting records and check some of the bill authorships, because Man, I hadn't seen a whole lot from the guy since he was elected some time ago, and now he's up for re-election here. So we'll see how that all plays out. But it's going to be a fun time over the next few months. And as a matter of fact, there's no better time to jump in for what we're going to talk about today. And the thing that I'm going to do over the next couple of episodes, because I am. This is one of those things. We all have this. This thing that just we have to do. It's those things you got to talk about, those things that get you fired up. And I will tell you, we're not lacking in podcasts. We're not lacking in people doing their political commentary. We got folks all over the place. We got folks going to places, they're setting up speakers and microphones, and they are just going at it back and forth. Not sure what they expect. I mean, when they go in some of these places, anyway, those are subjects for an entire different episode, because we're going to talk a little AARP. I am going to talk also about what I came across this iCitizen poll that I came across. Talk a little bit about that, but here's the deal. It's not so much about Social Security, which I'm sorry. I've got to do a quick lesson on Social Security. You've got to humor me on this. I don't care how old you are. It doesn't matter, because I'm telling you, there are folks right now who are talking about, we're going to talk about AARP, okay? Literally an organization that deals solely with trying to take care of retired people. And they're in their advertisement, man, they just flat out got it wrong. And we're going to talk about that. But here's the deal. Not necessarily the iCitizen thing or even the AARP or Social Security, even though all those are hot topics and important. It's more about the why. And that's what we want to get into today, and that's really going to be the subject over the next couple. Really, I don't want to call these training. It's here on the podcast. Matter of fact, if this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. I'm sorry I've been rambling, and I didn't even welcome you. Thank you for being on board, jumping on board with us, because, listen, I don't take it for granted that you are spending your only non-renewable resource right here listening to the podcast. If you're watching it on the YouTube channel, great. Certainly glad to have you. I don't take that for granted, and really, really, really grateful that you're hanging out. But here it's all, my goal is to get you to think. My goal is for us to touch on things and for me to poke a little bit and offer some things with some different perspectives possibly, and really force us to have some intellectual courage. We're going to talk about that in the coming weeks, but really look at things from the whole and really try to dive into the why and really think about the why, because we have become so superficial. We're a mile wide and an inch deep, and I think that's what the content creators, those who drive the message on media, that's what they hope for. That's what so many of our politicians, that's what so many folks want. They hope that you don't go dive deep into the things that you're seeing online, that you're seeing on news if you're watching or you're reading or hearing or whatever it is, because they don't want you to go deep. They expect me to just ride along the surface, that we're not going to go beyond it. We're not even going to consider what they said 3 days ago, because what they said today contradicts what they said 3 days ago, which contradicts what they said 3 days before that. That is it. We live in this soundbite culture, and we live in this thing of that we're not going to dive in very deep. And I really think that's by design, and they're Anyway, I don't want to get too far into it, but welcome to the podcast. My hope and desire is when we jump off here in a little while, that you're actually going to have some tools that you can put in your toolbox, because I love to fix stuff. As a matter of fact, if you can see my setup here, you can't really see it, but I got me a new desk. Super grateful for the new desk that I've got. Thank you, Nathan McCown, my head of school at Johns Ferry Christian Academy. But thank you for that. But I've got this thing. One of these days I'm going to turn the camera around and let you guys see it, but I'm always making stuff. I got stuff wired up everywhere. I'm always building things, and nothing is more frustrating than to try to do something and have the wrong tool, or need a tool and not have it. So here on the podcast, here on the Servant Warrior podcast, my goal is to pass along tools that you can put in a toolbox and have at the ready, because you never know when you're going to need it. It's kind of like four-wheel drive, right? It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And so I want us to think here on the pod. I want you to think anyway. I mean, I know we love mindless humor. Sometimes I'll jump on it. I don't watch a lot of TV. We watch a little NCIS around here. I just love NCIS. I'm an old Marine, so I like that. And certainly Red Sox baseball, as you can see here, got big fan baseball season. But I don't watch a whole lot of TV. But every once in a while, you kind of get just to have something on, not even really paying attention, or you watch some. There's some shows on that you don't watch it for any kind of content, just kind of mindless humor. The sad part about that is, 30 minutes later, an hour later, you realize, oh my gracious, I just wasted an hour. I can't really get anything back. And so anyway, those are, we love to have that. We need that break. We need the mental break. But you know what? Here's what I'm going to challenge you. Don't take so many of those mental breaks, because the more mental breaks you take, the greater the opportunity to get fooled, to get misled, if you're not on top of the game. And that's what the content creators, listen, if you're a content creator, great. I love to watch all the stuff. I mean, we're online. It is so much fun to watch all these different things. And you got to be careful between AI and non-AI and real and all that. So you even check out, make sure, hey, are they actually real? if you like somebody, or like some content like going on, do a little research. Check and make sure that they're actually a real person, because we got bands out there that are playing music and people are loving it, man. They got music climbing these charts, and they're not even real. Somebody made them up, and some great music, really cool outfits and all this, but it's AI driven, and you got to love AI. I like it. I use it. I use it a good bit. As a matter of fact, I'm working on right now an analytical tool for businesses, and AI has helped out a lot. And we use it, but it's more to help us make decisions, as opposed to making the decisions for us. And I think that is really, really important. And that's another super hot topic that we'll talk about here, because you've got to make everything that we do is about decisions. And I'm going to actually talk about over the next few weeks, as a part of my 3 Ps and the key. And it is literally 3 Ps and the key, the recipe that rules them all. And when I get done breaking this thing down over the next few episodes, you're going to go back and you're going to listen to it again. You're going to watch it again. You're going to do it again, because everything that we do, everything that you do, every decision that you make, everything that you watch, everything that you analyze, everything all stems from this recipe, and all stems from one single thing that I'm going to give you. The one reason why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time, and the reason why every decision will be made to the end of time. Everything that has been created, everything that has been developed, everything that has been started, everything that you see, everything based on one thing. And I'm going to give you that. And that is a significant thing to think about when you're reading something, when you're watching something, when you're listening to something, when you're in a conversation, when you hear a story, when you hear this. Trust me, you will want this, because it will force you to think critically, and it will force you to go beyond the surface when you're hearing things, when you're watching things, and it will force you to think. And again, you get to decide what you choose to believe. You get to decide what you listen to. You get to decide what you let into your ears and you don't let into your ears. That's 100% that decision on us, which also goes to prove my point about the one singular thing. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But I got to talk a little bit AARP. So here's the deal. I was online watching, scrolling through, and I came across an AARP commercial. And normally I fly right by that, man. I don't give that a second thought. But one of them caught my eye, and there was an elderly lady on in the ad talking about that she had been paying into Social Security her entire life, and she believed she deserves to draw from all that she put in. And that's what I said. I don't have the video, but I encourage you go watch it. And it doesn't take long. You can almost pull up any video people talking about Social Security, and they absolutely have no idea how Social Security works. But she said she's been given all her life, and now she wants to draw from that. And then they had the lady who was actually, I guess, the actor who was hired to lead this thing, was saying the same thing, that AARP is fighting for seniors and fighting for Social Security benefits. And my thought was, wait a minute, okay, do you think this is a 401k? Do you think this is a savings account that you've been putting into? Yeah, I mean, so when people retire and they want to draw Social Security, they're not drawing from what they put in. They're drawing from what's being currently put in by the people who are working. So listen, let me give you a quick. This is about tools. And this is also about information. And I'm not going to go too far into this thing, but I think it's really, really, really important that you understand how Social Security works, because it was actually started, you think about the old New Deal way back in the 1930s during the Depression, after the stock market crash and everything else. And it was to provide a retirement for those who, because of the stock market crash, because of the Great Depression, did not have any kind of income. And so that the government was going to help them because, one, they couldn't work. If you're retired or older, you're disabled, or you need to make some type of revenue. I mean, bills happen. You got to buy food and all that. So that's why it was actually started. And so it's been going. You hear a whole lot of words. As a matter of fact, you got to be really careful, because the government has been pulling from this big giant pot we call Social Security fund, and they've been borrowing from it. Unfortunately, I haven't been put it back, but that'll be a subject for another day. But I want to make sure that we understand this, because when I heard and I was listening and watching the commercial. The commercial was all about fighting for Social Security benefits, and what as a recovering economist and political scientist, and one who taught economics and taught government and taught political science, and my ears perk up when I hear somebody talking about this. So if I'm putting that commercial together, and I'm not trying to analyze the AARP commercial, but here's the deal: if that is the case, and you want to protect and you want to fight for Social Security, then here's what you need to be doing. You need to be ensuring that the younger generations who are working have really good jobs. And you need to make sure that they are working for a really long time, because the people that you are serving, by the way, now I'm speaking to you, AARP. If you're an AARP representative, please give me a call. You can hit me up, Jeff@servantwarriorpodcast.com. You can go online. You can go Facebook or Instagram at Mr. Jeff Searcy, on X at Jeff Searcy. I'm sure you are on LinkedIn. That's at Jeff Searcy. I encourage you, hit me up. Let's have a conversation about this, because here's what I would encourage you to do. Yeah, you're fighting for Social Security. I get that. That's what you're talking about. But you're also pandering to a group, and we're going to get into that. That's all this is leading towards. So I'm using the AARP and I'm using Social Security to lead me to the subject that we're going to get into, because I want you to be prepared. I want you to be fully equipped, your toolbox to be full, because, man, you think we got information overload now. Just wait. It is going to continue. It's going to continue. And we got elections coming up. We got midterms coming up. Man, those are going to be crazy. And so I want to make sure that you are prepared. But it's this thing that we think that Social Security, because we put money into it like a savings account or a 401k, that when we retire, we're drawing the money that we put in. No, the people that are paying current Social Security benefits are those people that are working right now, because Social Security benefits, as all benefits that people receive, most of them are derived from payroll taxes. Okay, payroll taxes. Now, this was, and we're going to go, if we're in class, I would ask students, okay, if the government, the only way the government can generate revenue is through taxes. And you and I pay taxes. The government doesn't create anything. They can print money, which only devalues our currency, but they don't generate any revenue. The only revenue they can generate is through taxes. So in other words, their ability, being the United States government, their ability to generate revenue is solely determined on our ability to earn a revenue. Let me let that sink in, okay? Because and we all can't stand taxes, but taxes are a necessary evil. I just wish they didn't take so much of them, right? But that's what the government has a job to do. And there are also benefits that are being paid out by people. So in other words, the benefits that are being paid out, those are driven by payroll tax. So if AARP really, really wants to protect and fight for Social Security, why don't you ensure that the current generations that are working have those stable jobs and their ability to earn a greater living is there, because that is the best way to fight for Social Security. Here's the other thing I'm going to encourage you to do, AARP. Talk to folks who are teaching the younger generations and make sure they understand what Social Security is and how it actually works. Because in your commercial, you are absolutely sending the wrong message. Sorry. And again, I'm going to get off my soapbox on this one, but it just drives me crazy when we talk about that and we're fighting for Social Security benefits. You know what? Make sure we want to take care of our retirees. I'm not too far from retiring, but I will tell you, I understand it. So that is exactly why when I was teaching, this is exactly why, like I said, as a reform economist and political science teacher, that I want to ensure that those students that I got an opportunity to teach, and what I'm talking about here, the better we can equip generations with the actual understanding of how things work, the better decisions, hopefully, that they make, and the better decisions that those great decisions are going to help me as I get older. Okay? So, if you don't believe me, again, I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just telling you to think, right? Listen, I am nobody. I've just been around the block a few times, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and even in a past life, I printed that T-shirt. But that is how Social Security works. I don't want to go too much into a lesson because there's really some stuff that I really want to get into before we jump off. But I encourage you to go check out how it works. Don't be misled. You're watching these commercials and all this stuff. And the politicians, you know what? If a politician says that they want to protect Social Security, why don't you ask them, hey, Mr. or Miss Senator, Mr. Congressman, Miss Congressperson, what are you doing? How much money have you allowed to be taken from the Social Security fund, and how much of that money have you actually paid back? I think that would be a good question. Watch them jump around and watch them try to backpedal. But if you know how it works, if you know what's going on, you can actually hold our government officials accountable. That's another thing, man. I want to put these tools in your toolbox. So when these ads come out and when all these people are talking about things, by the way, don't be misled. You're going to get a lot of local elections coming up. You know, when a mayor tells you he's going to stop, or a candidate running for governor says they're going to stop taxes. Okay, just laugh. That sounds really good, but unless the legislature wants to do that, they're not going to. They can say it all day, they just won't. If you got our national our national elected officials, right? Our Congress people, right? Our senators, they're going to talk about, they're going to do this and do that. You know what? Take it for a grain of salt. I'm not telling you that they're not going to be able to, but it's really, really hard. The Constitution is awesome, and it is designed with the separation of powers. It is designed to be really, really, really hard to pass federal legislation. So I want you to focus on your local elections and your state elections. But anyway, if you don't believe me about Social Security, do your own homework. Check it out. I promise you that you will see that, oh, really? So the money that I've been paying in Social Security the whole time, that didn't really go for my retirement. That's going for the current retirees. And my retirement, if I'm getting Social Security, is going to be funded by the people who are working. That's it. There you go. That's kind of the Social Security 101. All right. So iCitizen, let me jump on this because, man, I will ramble. As you can probably already tell, I get fired up about this, but it's cool. So according to iCitizen, right, it takes these polls, and you can check out, and I'm pretty confident this is going to be across the board. I know people would like to make you believe that the thing that's driving people crazy is immigration, which is a big deal, by the way. We'll get into that on some other thing. The war, the things that are going on in Iran, and all the craziness going on, all the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, that is a big deal. And by the way, I want to thank our men and women in uniform. If you are currently serving as an old Marine, I'm so grateful for your service. Thank you. Thank you for standing in that gap that for us to ensure that we can live in a free country, that I can do this, I can have my own podcast, you can do that we can eat and worship and enjoy things here because of your sacrifice and your willingness to stand in the gap and ensure that we live free, because freedom comes at a great cost, and I'm very grateful for that. So, but the war and things that are going on, that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is the economy and affordability, according to iCitizen, and that is it. As a matter of fact, James Carville, you can go Google that name, and he reminds me of Gollum. If you've seen, gosh, man, that is so mean. Cersei shouldn't say that, but if you ought to go check out. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you should do that. You should check out Lord of the Rings. Look at Gollum, and look at the little guy that's walking around, chases Frodo and Sam around all the place, and then look at a picture of James Carville. You will see. Lord, forgive me. But anyway, James Carville. He was an advisor to former President Bill Clinton. And when Bill Clinton was running for president, Carville actually wrote on the office wall of Clinton's headquarters, his campaign headquarters, "It's the economy, stupid." Not it's the economy, comma, stupid's calling Clinton. So that is what is the economy is always going to be the biggest driver. I don't care what anybody says. There's things that are going on. The economy is always going to drive people's vote. People vote with their wallets. People vote with their ATM card, with their credit cards. That's the way it is, because people scream and yell. You got politicians, all this stuff. They're always talking about things that they're going to do. But at the end of the day, one, what are you going to do about prices? What are you going to do about the price of gas? What are you going to do about groceries? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? How are you going to lower the costs? Why we got inflation? All that. That is really what people are thinking about. They understand. I think people are getting a little bit more savvy in the world of politics, that there's very little difference between those in Washington, and there's very little difference. Matter of fact, again, the national stuff is really sexy and it's cool because that's what we see on news and all that stuff. But the biggest impact to you and I as individuals will be at our local and state level. So I would encourage you, get involved there. Take a look at what's going on around you. Take a look at what's going on in your local school boards and your local chambers of commerce. Even though those aren't elected, those folks are making some things. Your board of commissioners, depending on how your township or city or whatever it is run, your city manager, your mayor, also your governor, your state legislators. Go follow them, and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, because that is what's going to impact you the most. When you talk about property tax, and you're talking about city tax and state tax and sales tax and all of the things, and you got SPLOST and all the things that are going on, that is where that comes from. That doesn't come from the federal level. That comes from your state and local officials. So there we go. So, man, you are getting so much information today in so little time. You get an ultimate civics lesson, and you're getting it from me. And it's a cool thing. But there's method to the madness about why I'm talking about AARP today. And also why I'm talking about iCitizen, why I really just and been jumping on this information thing and going into the whys, because I want you to think below the surface. I want you to go deeper and really asking yourself, why are they doing that? Why are they saying that particular thing in that particular way? And you got to go beyond. If we're talking about advertising, yeah, the ultimate goal is to sell whatever product, whatever service. That's it. If it's a politician, he's telling you or she's telling you to vote. They're trying to get your vote. Everybody's trying to sell something, right? That's really what we're doing. That's what advertising is. That's why people pay $1 gazillion to have their ads run on Super Bowl, because a whole lot of people are going to see them. Matter of fact, Budweiser owns it. Budweiser owns it. They get to bring Freebird back, and now Freebird is was one of the top songs after that, and with the Clydesdale horse and the eagle and everything. Oh man, one of the best commercials ever. Hands down, bar none, boom, best commercials ever. But I want you to go beyond that. When you watch a commercial, when you hear somebody talk, when you hear a sound bite, when you hear something, an ad, when you hear people talking on the radio. Matter of fact, when people are posting content on their social media and they're doing that, they're posting everything. There are reasons why, and I want you to start thinking about those whys. Excuse me. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about why are they doing that. And I'm not telling you to analyze everything, but I'm telling you to think critically about it, because everything that we hear has an impact on how we think. everything that we listen to, because we don't know what's going on in the world around us. We only know that by what we hear other people talking about. I don't know what's going on in California right now. I have no idea what's going on. I mean, here in Georgia, something, as a matter of fact, if I turned on the news or all of a sudden I looked online and somebody said, man, Arizona and Nevada now have a beach, right? They got oceanfront property. My immediate thought was, okay, well, the only way that happens is California is now in the ocean. I have no idea. And I could look online and I could see it and I could go on the news. That's the only way that I know. The only thing that I know for sure what is happening is what's happening right here in the good old Servant Warrior Studios right here, right? That's the only thing that I know of. So there's a reason why everything is being put online. There's a reason why people say what they say. There's a reason why you say what you say, and there's a reason why you don't say some things. There's a reason why you take a certain path. If you're a high school student, there's a reason why you take a certain path around campus, because you don't want to see so-and-so, because if you go that way, you're going to see them. There's a reason why we do everything. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But I'm going to do a shortened version over the next couple of episodes. And I'm going to make these separate. I'm going to make these like I want to say training videos, but I'll try to do them short. I will try to do them in, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, because I know 30 minutes is about the average commute to work, unless you're, well, anyway, man, 75 here in Atlanta, traffic is just ridiculous. But your commute is about 30 minutes. So I'll try to make them right at 30 minutes long, and it will give you so much information. I will tell you, it will change the way you think when you go to work. All of a sudden, you're going to be looking at people differently because you're going to be analyzing kind of what they say. But before I get into a little bit of lay the foundation of what I want to talk about, I got to tell you about my radio show, the Unabashed Radio. It is my weekly radio show where it is all about the rock and metal that proclaims the gospel. If you get too close to your speakers, man, it will flat out melt your face. But I love it. It's on Warrior Voices Radio. As a matter of fact, I want you to hear something from it right now. Oh yeah, Unabashed Radio is back and on a new home, Warrior Voices Radio. Join me, Cersei, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern at warriorvoicesradio.com for speaker-blowing, paint-peeling, life-changing rock and metal with a message. That's Unabashed Radio on our brand new home, Warrior Voices Radio, where every day is Veterans Day. Once again, that's warriorvoicesradio.com. All right, yep, you got to go check it out. Go to warriorvoicesradio.com. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, you will hear another edition of Unabashed Radio. And if you want to hear some past ones, I've got some shows up on my website. You can go to unabashedраdio.com and check out some past shows. They are on there. As a matter of fact, I get no promotional consideration whatsoever here. So YouTube folks, I'm not promoting it in any way, shape, or form. Just enjoying my Hi-Yo. If you hadn't had one of these, you gotta try. If you don't like carbonation, it's social tonic, right? Non-alcoholic, but pretty tasty. Not too bad. Got some botanicals in it. I don't know. Anyway, I always love to find new stuff. So anyway, if you see me drinking my little Hi-Yo, there you go. There's my public service announcement for today. All right. So at the beginning of the podcast, and I know that you feel like it's been probably 100 years ago, excuse me, but I talked about this training piece, and I know podcasts were used to going on to hear people's opinions and and all of that stuff and getting information. This is the purpose of the podcast, and again, I want you to hear what I'm saying. I want you to hear, and I want you to think a little bit. I want you to think a little bit, because critical thinking is in critical condition. And I will tell you, common sense ain't so common anymore. And that is, I truly believe there's an element of that that's by design, because if we don't understand how things go, right? If we don't understand how the world works, if we don't understand how capitalism works, if we don't understand how the economy works, if we don't understand how the government works, if we don't understand how laws work, if we don't understand how things work, then how in the world are we going to hold people accountable? And I will tell you, man, I got, let me see. Oh, Screw Tape Letters. By the way, if you haven't read Screw Tape Letters, you got to do that. C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest authors ever. And I encourage you. I think you'll like Old Wormwood and then Old Uncle Screwtape. You ought to check that out. But I was looking for a Constitution. I would encourage you to read the Constitution. Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing a civics lesson, man, and I'm so sorry. But here's the deal. It'll take you about 45 minutes. You could read through it. You're probably not going to understand everything because there's a whole, but you will have a better idea, and you will actually be part of the 2% of the people on the planet, or actually 2% of the people in the United States has ever read the Constitution. I want you to be a part of that 2%. But I want you to understand how things go. I want you to understand how things work, because if you don't understand how things work, you cannot hold people accountable. And I promise you, you will be fooled so many times, time after time after time. You'll be fooled because you don't know. And we live in a world of borrowed perspectives, and we're going to talk about that in some of the upcoming episodes. We live in that world, because we hear something online, or we hear this, or we follow this guy, or this is an influencer, or that person, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, our thought process goes that way. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool if you think that way because that's how you think, but don't think a certain way because somebody else does. Because the first time somebody asks you, well, why do you think that way? If you can't answer it, in other words, if you borrowed your perspective from somebody else, and somebody asks you why you think that way, and you say, well, because so-and-so thinks that way, then all of a sudden you actually realize that's when the reality baseball bat hits you right in the head, and you realize you can't even support your own thought process. You can't even support your own perspective. So whatever your perspective is, own it. Right? Own it. But you're going to have to, you got to learn about it. You got to actually, you've got to go deeper, because everything that we hear, and I mentioned this earlier, everything we hear, everything that we watch, everything that we see, everything that we read, all goes into formulating our foundational thought processes and principles. And I will tell you, man, the folks who put the content on our cell phones, they understand what they're doing. They understand exactly. They feed us more and more and more of what we want. If we see something that we don't like on this good old cell phone, we're cruising through our Instagram feed. If I don't like that, man, we call the death scroll, right? We're going through it. All of a sudden we see something we like, we stop, we watch it. If I don't see something I don't like, I just keep scrolling. And that algorithm will keep giving us what we like. It'll keep giving us what we want to see. And that echo chamber, okay, that will create a particular perspective, and we won't own that one. It will be driven and formed by the echoes that keep going in our head, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to be ready. I want you to own your perspective. I want you to challenge it. I want you to be ready when people challenge it. That's one of the things I used to tell my students. Hey, when you get out in the world, everything that you believe to be true is going to be challenged. And if you don't own it, if you're not ready for that, if you are not prepared to defend your perspective, you're going to find yourself on the back end of a really bad situation, because then you will wonder what you actually think. Man, just own it. Anyway, we'll get into that. But my 3 Ps, it's the 3 Ps and the key. The recipe to rule them all. Yeah, you can go if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. The one ring to rule them all. Yeah, but I'm talking about, and there's a whole lot of truth to this. What we're talking about here, and what I'll be talking about over the next few episodes, there are very few things that you're going to run into that have application in every single thing that you do. Everything that you take in, everything that you say, everything that you watch, everything. Very few things have 100% application in everything we do. And what we're going to talk about over the next couple episodes, and when we get into my 3 Ps and the key, you will understand what I'm talking about. So the 3 Ps. This is something that when I get a chance to do professional development for educators. Matter of fact, if you're an educator and you're watching this, hey, go to my website. Go to jeffsearcy.net and click on there. There's a speaking thing on there. You can actually find out a little bit about some of the things that I like to talk about, and actually about these 3 Ps. And I can help you. I'd love to help you have a better understanding and create a better environment, not only inside your classroom, but really anywhere in your workplace, wherever it is, and have the ability to actually have conversations with folks on a level that is substantive. And not in this world of cancel culture that because we disagree, I call you a bad name and I do all this and I threaten. Man, we got people doing crazy stuff with people they disagree with. We've got Supreme Court justices right now that are being influenced because they're having death threats because people don't like their decisions. Man, we got to figure this thing out. There are heart issues all over the place, and that'll be the subject for a whole other day. And so that's why it's really, really important. Stand up for your own perspective, own your perspective, because when you can't support it, you're not going to be able to have it. It ain't going to be yours. And if you can't support it, then it's not yours. It's borrowed. It's somebody else. But here's the deal. This one single recipe, 3 Ps and the key, it is the foundation of everything, no matter what you're doing. If you're a business and you're analyzing your customer base, this recipe is the foundation of that. If you're trying to think about what business to start, this recipe is the foundation for that. If you're trying to figure out why somebody's thinking the way that they're thinking or why they're saying what they're saying, this is the foundation for that. If you're trying to figure out what is your best course of action, and when you're trying to figure out what if you want your job trajectory, your career trajectory, the major that you want to get, if you're a college student, all these things, this recipe is the foundation for your decision that you are going to be making. I'm telling you, I wasn't lying when I said that what I'm going to share with you is the only thing that actually has an application in every single thing that you do. But the 3 Ps, position, perspective, and purpose. And I'm not going to get into those in detail today. But position, where are you viewing it from? Where is it coming from? Right? Where are they? You got to consider all of that. Where are you? We'll get into all that. And I promise you, when we get into it, you're going to go, yep, been there, done that. Yep, heard that. Oh, man, that was actually me. So we're going to talk about position, perspective. We all got them. And the one thing is, everybody's different. Every perspective has infinite value because every person has infinite value, but they're all different. And we've got to take that in consideration. Okay? So you got position, you got perspective, and you got purpose. The why. Why are they sharing it? What's the reason? What am I going to do with it? What is the purpose of that? And then here's the deal, though, the 3 Ps, and when we get into this, you cannot use them separately. They have to be used together. Okay, the purpose, when you look at everything through that particular filter, you will start to get a broader perspective and you'll start to see this thing in whatever you're looking at, whatever you're analyzing, whatever you're thinking about. Okay, you will start to see it in multiple levels, and that is where you have that's where you have some depth to you. You have some depth to your thought process, and you will also start to really be able to see, man, surface level stuff. And it's not being, be a little critical. Sometimes we call it discerning. Sometimes we call it skeptical. I don't care what you call it. But either way, if you call it whatever you want to, as long as you're thinking about it. And then that one thing, the one single thing that drives everything. And I will tell you, this is the one thing, man, when I start talking about it, people get fired up. I've had people call me. I've had all this stuff. The one thing that drives everything, the one reason why everything has ever been made since the beginning of time, the reason why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time and will be made till the end of the time, the reason why we do everything that we do, the reason why we believe everything that we believe, the reason why we say everything that we say, the reason why we listen, all of these based on one single thing, and that is self-interest. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to, just as importantly, we're going to talk about what it's not. Because there's a whole other thing. Self-interest itself is neutral. And we're going to talk about that. And I am hoping that some of the things that I've talked about here on this episode of the Servant Warrior Podcast, maybe it struck a nerve. I'm hoping that it did. I'm hoping that it caused you to think. I'm hoping that it caused you to question a little bit, or maybe even question me. I'm okay with that. I don't know everything, but I will tell you, if you're thinking about when we get through with these few sessions, you want to call me. You're going to reach out to me. You're going to tell somebody. You're going to tell your boss. You're going to tell your teachers. You're going to tell your department chairs if you're an educator. You're going to tell your administrator, hey, we got to get Cersei over. We got to get him to do the whole thing. We got to get him to do the whole professional development, because I got to know. I want to dive deeper into this. I want to understand this a little bit better. I don't understand what he's talking about, but I know I have a pretty good idea, or I recognize that, or it strikes a nerve, or whatever it is. I want to go deeper with that. Call me. Okay, you can Jeff at servantwarriorpodcast.com. You can go to my website, jeffcersei.net. You can reach me there. You can find out even more some of the things that we're doing. But I would encourage you to do that, because that's when you're looking at it. If you're analyzing your business, if you're with a nonprofit and you're trying to figure out how to generate revenue, how to raise money. Okay, how to provide services, how to decide what service you want to provide, how to decide what business you want. How do you decide what topic you want your podcast to be about? If you go to AI, they'll tell you, if you go look on social media, you want to start a podcast, decide on a topic. And they go through all these things, all of this that I'm talking about here, all of it is based in that recipe, that 3 Ps and the key. And we're going to get into that in the coming episodes. All right. Well, listen, I beat you up long enough. I'm hoping that you're thinking a little bit. I'm hoping that you're thinking a lot. And I'm hoping that you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about, but that you're looking for the next time, because we're going to jump into it. But I would love to hear from you. Hit me up on my Instagram or Facebook at Mr. Jeff Cersei, or you can hit me up on X at Jeff Cersei. You can go to LinkedIn at Jeff Cersei, or you can just email me, Jeff at servantwarriorpodcast.com. All right, well, listen, I got to get out of here. So until we meet again, keep it real, radical, relentless, and relevant. It's the only way to go. And remember, the only real freedom exists in and through Jesus Christ. So from the Servant Warrior Studios here in beautiful Marietta, Georgia, I will see you next time. God bless you. Keep rocking. Cersei out.